Can CJ lose the respect of his homies? Can you respray a helicopter at Pay and Spray? Or where does Sweet go in the mission tagging up Turf after he leaves CJ to spray over a few of Ball's graffiti tags in East Los Santos? What lies ahead of us is another episode of various fun facts in GTA San Andreas that I discovered in the current year. Enjoy! As we know, CJ is one of the highest ranking members within the ranks of the Grove Street Families gang. In the city streets, in the territories controlled by that criminal group, a player will have little trouble spotting members of this gang. In fact, there's plenty of them in any area marked green on the map. Did you know that if a player decides to rebel and begins to, in shoals, kill off the members of his gang, they will face consequences? See, it turns out that after killing, in the case of my 2 attempts, it was 48 and 21 gang members, so it highly depends. So again, after killing a certain number of the members of our gang, the game displays a text box stating that our respect stat has significantly decreased, and that makes a lot of sense. No need to explain why. However, it seems as if something went wrong while designing this function on the developer side, as if we actually review our stats after seeing the message, we'll notice that our statistics haven't changed whatsoever. Thus, at the end of the day, this function is very sensible, and it's a cool detail. However, it's not working properly, unfortunately. Or fortunately, that's if someone doesn't like the green crew. But hold on, is it really not functional? See, I managed to find a situation in which respect was genuinely lost. When I loaded a save file made during the LS section of the story, and I raised the respect stat to the maximum with the help of a trainer, after which I killed just one member of the families, the stat was returned to the level it was on before I'd elevated it. It seems to me as if, along with the progression of the story, the minimum threshold of respect is being raised, below which one cannot go. When we go above that threshold, then if we kill merely one member of our gang, even from different sets, with which we're technically beefing, the respect will go back to the baseline, depending on the stage of the story. That's why, when I tested that trick on a save file, on which the respect stat was very high, and where my respect status seemingly corresponded with the minimum respect threshold, at the complete story, when I was ruthlessly killing the gangsters, the game wanted to reduce the respect and hence the text box, but it couldn't do that because I already was at the lowest respect possible for that stage of the story. But then I verified what would happen if I gained respect by killing Ballas instead of using the trainer. And so I went and took over some territory. The respect has increased significantly and definitely noticeably, after which I attended to murdering the green guys, expecting a similar effect as when I'd used the trainer, so that the respect stat would return to the level of it I'd had prior to killing the Ballas. But something else happened instead. The same thing happened as in the case of the first attempt. After killing exactly 21 gang members, a text box appeared, which showed exactly what could be expected, the decrease of the respect stat to the story baseline. However, yet again, the message turned out to be fake because the respect stat was unaffected. So to be honest with you, I have no clue what to think about that. If you have any idea how it works, please let me know about it in a comment. Why in the case of the trainer, the respect stat decreases already after killing one member, in turn, in any other scenario, after killing a considerable amount of our gangsters, a false message pops up indicating the drop in respect, however, having no representation in reality. I think that there isn't a GTA player who doesn't know how Pay and Spray works. We get into a garage in a vehicle, we get it to stop, the garage door closes, and our car receives a new paint color, and our wanted level becomes suspended, if we had it while entering the garage. But have you ever tried to enter a spray shop in a helicopter? Cause I sure have. And it turns out that those Pay and Sprays offer the full package of services. Just like that, they'll fix up your Maverick any time of day. It's pretty much possible with almost every helicopter. It's only a matter of getting it fully into the garage. If it fits, all good, it'll work. If it don't though, the garage door will never close, and you won't be able to respray your chopper. The smoothest it went with the Sparrow, with which I was able to enter and leave the garage without damaging it at all. The planes are a different beast though, cause the vast majority of them don't fit into the garage. Even the custom script I made didn't help. However, there is one plane which can be resprayed. Granted, it's not a very straightforward process to get it inside the garage, and you gotta adopt a certain strategy, but it can be done. As you may have already guessed, the stunt plane is the aircraft in question, which, as you can see on the screen right now, can be resprayed at a spray shop. The next fun fact is to do with one of the missions for OG Loke by the name of Management Issues. Its genesis is to steal another rapper's manager's driver's car, since that manager was ruining Loke's reputation on the streets. All that in order to pick him up from the ceremony in the quest to kill him, so he doesn't suspect anything, cause we'd be in his driver's car. The ceremony ends past 10 p.m, and it's before that time that we have to arrive at the driver's meeting. That is, before the actual driver gets there. Okay, fine. What's so unusual about that? Well, that mission allows a certain trick, thanks to which we're able to clone the main character. So, to clone CJ. In order to achieve that, instead of jacking the chauffeur's car, one should simply jump onto it, just like that. Best to jump onto the hood of the vehicle. At least in my case, that turned out to be the most fruitful in terms of producing the effect in question. Then, all we have to do is wait until the driver reaches his destination. Once he's close, a cutscene will trigger, in which we can see the convoy driving off, and one of the drivers will be none other than Carl Johnson. Let me just say right away that it doesn't work every time. I don't know what it depends on, but it's simply inconsistent, so you may have to try it a few times before it eventually works. It's also worth adding that the CJ clone is not just some cheap imposter. He's actually just as resistant as the real CJ and just as fast, which makes this even more intriguing. I'm actually unable to tell what is the cause of such a state of affairs, so if you have any theories explaining that, then I encourage you to share them in a comment, because I really am curious about that one. Moving on to another thing, this one also is tied to one of the missions, this time one of the ones from the beginning, namely tagging up turf. During that quest, at a certain point, Sweet asks CJ to tag up one of the baller hoods with the Grove graffiti, while he goes and does the same in another neighborhood of the Purple Crew.
You hit this up here, and I'll go up and do another hood.
In reality, it's a completely different story. If we opt to follow Sweet, we'll eventually conclude that he just drives around with no apparent destination. And the best part is that it's not him who's driving, but an invisible chauffeur. All the while, Sweet is chilling in the passenger seat. But the extent of the ridiculousness of this situation reaches even further, because if we go to Grove Street, we'll notice that an exact copy of Sweet in his car will be there, sitting idle in the middle of the cul-de-sac. The car will also be locked. Better yet, one time, the game pulled off a total madness. It literally just once occurred to me that Sweet's car was levitating around 15 meters above the ground, but unfortunately, I've been unable to recreate that outcome ever again. In any case, well, I knew that Sweet was lazy at times, but that lazy? I did not expect that much. Either during the burglary mission, as well as during the riot in Los Santos, a player may encounter an ordinary TV in the game. However, those tellies are not really that ordinary, as it so happens that they possess supernatural properties. See, they're totally invincible and immovable. Whether we spray it with bullets, or fire rockets at it, or smash a car at it at 100 miles per hour, or even ram it with a tank, the TV would stubbornly stay in its place, untouched. The only way to actually move it is if we acquired it during a session of burglary. Then, while the mission is still active, we're able to pick it up with CJ. But other than that, it's a completely unmovable object. Unfortunately, it won't be able to stop a train, as a train would always phase through it. As is commonly known, recruited members of our gang will get in any vehicle with us. Something that at first glance appears to be completely natural is that they will also get on a boat with us, and to be more specific, on the Squalo. After all, if we take a look, there seems to be enough room for a few people to sit down there, so we should be able to go on a cruise with our homies. And yeah, we can. But it doesn't look quite the way one could imagine. Cause the homies, sure, they will enter the boat with us, but rather than sitting down somewhere next to CJ so they don't fall out, they prefer to stand at the very edge of the bodywork. Well, on the other hand, I can't blame them, as they do a really good job at hanging onto the boat in that position. We may cause major turbulence, drive with high speeds, make sharp turns, and they will remain intact as it is. Sometimes at a sharper turn, some of them may even go underwater for a brief moment, and still no reaction. The feet glued to the floor. Even better, the cheat code for flying boats poses no challenge for them neither. Even if we smash one of the homies' heads against the structure of a bridge, he'll take a hit as if it were just a scratch. In terms of drive-by though, it's inconsistent. Sometimes they'll shoot at rival gangsters, at others, they won't. So that gives the impression that this particular function is kinda broken. Either way, it just looks straight up hilarious. At the Doherty construction site near CJ's workshop, there are a few lampposts. There's a post and a light at the top of it, standard. However, what's not standard is that if we break such a post by an explosion, for example using a grenade, the post will break down, but the light will remain to shine out of nowhere. Moreover, the hitbox of the post will persist, which is especially intriguing. But if we break a pole with a car by driving into it, in the case of a weaker contact, the lamp will die, whereas if the impact is stronger, the post will collapse, and the light will also disappear, just as it should be. Why do the lampposts behave differently when exploded though? Well, what can be concluded from this is that such a light pole is made up of two separate objects, the object of the post and the light object, both of them having an identical hitbox. It was designed this way most likely for the effect that we just described to be possible, that a smaller collision will cause the light to go out, but leaving the pole intact. However, one crucial detail has been skipped during the development. The object of the light has been seemingly made immune to explosions, while the pole object hasn't. In order to support that thesis, notice that we can destroy a levitating light by driving a car into the spot where the pole would normally stand. In GTA San Andreas, the car Premier has as many as 4 different variants. The regular one, the taxi, is also a version of a Premier, as much as the police cars from Los Santos and San Fierro. Those are also Premiers. But did you know that each of them, apart from the 2 police cars, do not only differ in appearance, but also in some technical aspects? Let's begin with the fact that either of the 3 variations vary in speed performance. The taxi is the slowest, while the police car is the fastest. The standard Premier, though, is quicker than the taxi but falls short of the cop car, which you can see on the screen right now. That is not all just yet. As opposed to the common Premier and the police car, the taxi has front-wheel drive. In turn, the cop car is the only one to have an ABS system installed. I bet that it's known to you that with the help of a trainer or a cheat menu, if we use a teleport to marker option, while the marker is set directly on a body of water, after the teleport, we'll be able to walk, drive, or even fly underwater. However, were you aware that there's a possibility to produce a similar outcome without the use of cheats and trainers? See, if a pedestrian who's angry at us throws us out of a vehicle in such a way that CJ ends the animation of getting thrown out of a vehicle directly above the water, we'll achieve the same effect. CJ will be under the surface of the water, but the properties of being underwater won't trigger, allowing us to explore the bottom of the ocean with ease, as we'll be able to travel much faster, and obviously, we'll have unlimited oxygen. And for the end, I left a little bonus for those who've watched the previous episode in which I presented a certain glitch allowing us to drive a wrecked vehicle. While recording this video, I got an idea to additionally verify whether we're able to start a race mission in such a car, like the one for Caesar, or the one in which we meet Woozie. And so I did, and the result was that we are able to do that. The mission starts as usual, and we may participate in the race in a charred vehicle without wheels.
Nice ride, man. That's no carucha.